There's a fire inside and I just can't hide it. There's a fire inside and I just can't fight it. Ooh. You know I'm coming for you. There's a feeling inside, let it take it over. The past is in the past, wipe it off my shoulder. Ooh. You know I'm coming for you.
Going, oh, there's a rift between Paul and Gary. We can start that rumour.
Plug.
There's a rift between Coolio. Gary won't look at him.
Because every time Gary looks at him, he squints at him.
They had cuddles in the swag last night. Now Paul won't talk to him. Gary won't look at him.
Is that true about the rift?
Well, the pearls of wisdom come out now. You didn't call action.
No. Action.
Oh.
Hey. Just get some biscuits.
So you get that.
Quite warm.
I hope you get that towel in shot. Gary's got his incontinent pants on.
Yes.
I got a towel on my chair because it's wet because he's hopeless awning.
That's right. All right, guys, welcome to another edition of SnackChats around the campfire. We are currently out at Ellabunny Rock, and it has been pissing down with rain all afternoon, hence why the campsite looks a little bit wet. Gary's swag floated away about half an hour ago. So.
If anyone's wondering, I got a waterbed.
Yeah, that's it. So, here we have some, what have we got? Some veal, some cheese, some biscuits, and some quiches.
Okay, it's beautiful.
So, should be good. All right. No, I just filled my mouth up. First question.
Let's guess so well.
First question for all of you. If you were replacing your car tomorrow, now this is not a question of money is no option. This is a question of if you were realistically replacing your car tomorrow, what would you buy?
Start with them.
Gary's got his mouth full, so we'll start with Anthony.
Well, you know what? I've looked at the car market because it was it was something I was thinking about doing, and my choice was to decide to basically hold on for a little while. You know, I like the Y62s. I think the interior needs an update, and I think it's coming soon. And you know, other than that, looking at the market now, really none of the other dual cabs appeal to me enough. So it's either waiting for one of the next gen dual cabs that comes out that's really impressive. Maybe if they put the V6 into the Hilux or something like that, you know, or wait for the new model of the Y62.
Well, fair enough.
Yeah, I think I'm similar there, Anthony. I've been in the market looking, actively looking and pricing and doing things like that, and looking to build. As much as I'd love a dual cab ute, unless, as we discussed before, tubs are useless. You know, they let in dirt, water, you name it, comes in. You cannot seal the tailgate, so you put a fridge and a battery in there and it just gets wrecked. So automatically you buy and the prices are ridiculous. The brand new D-Max and BT50, there's no way they're worth 50, 60 grand. Not in a pink fit for a base model. You know, they're cashing in on COVID, unfortunately. It's dead set. I'll say it's a rip-off for what you get. And then on top of that, to do it properly, you need to put a body on it. So there's minimum 15 grand on top. So you're looking at 80 grand to set up even a reasonable tourer. And that's a hell of a repayment. So for me, I was actually, I'd actually looked very seriously at it was used, Holden Trailblazer.
Okay.
For a couple of reasons. Wagon, Colorado, so it's got a punchy 2.8. It's got 500 Newton meters of torque. I've had a lot of dramas over the years with different cars with tunes, and I don't like tuning because they just have issues. So at 500 Newton meters of torque and 147 kilowatts, you don't need to tune it. It's ready to go. Colorado platform, parts are everywhere, nice and comfortable.
Not worried about the Holden thing?
No, they're good for the next 10 years. Like the ones I was looking at were sort of 19s, 18, 19, 20, so they're still under factory warranty for a while. They've got to guarantee parts for at least the next 7 years, 10 years. So no, not so much an issue with that. They still shared the drivetrain, well, not the drivetrain, the chassis and suspension and all that from the Isuzu, so you get a good quality unit. The only thing that I didn't like is it doesn't have a locker in it, so automatically you're looking another $3,000 for a locker. But apart from that, you can actually get a fairly good little bus. Looked at things like Pajero Sports. Problem is, by the time we kit it out for what we want, with bigger tyres and bar work and all that, 430 Newton metres is starting to get a little low for some of the heavy sand, especially coming out of a Hemi. You know, I've got power on tap, so I want to be able to stomp it and go. So that was basically where I was at, and being a Holden four-wheel drive, you're paying $5,000 to $10,000 less for an equivalent Trailblazer than you are for an MUX, for effectively the same car. You know, neither of them got lockers, so it was a good sort of $40,000. Kitted up your $60,000 into a fully kitted Tourer. Apart from that, at the moment, I'm probably just going to sink another couple of grand into the Jeep. Another couple. What's $10,000 in the last 6 months? Let's go another couple.
That's right.
But it is an aging car, but hopefully I'm to the point where now I can get it to the point where it is almost new. You know, the suspension's about to be completely replaced. The engine's, once I get that running properly, that'll be fine. It's a solid car, and I find myself looking, going, what will compete with that?
Yeah, that's the thing.
Big
That was the
big
same
V8,
thing.
double lockers, electric interior, heated seats. Short of a Sahara, what am I looking at?
Wait for my car.
But that's the sort of look at. You go, well, this is what I've got now. This is what this does. To get that to the same level, you're looking at a $90,000 cruiser.
And then what extra thing are you going to have? I get it. Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not going to be any better off than I am with spending another couple of grand to get that spot on. So at this point in time, probably the Jeep will stick around. But that was sort of my very serious thoughts up until probably a few weeks ago. So yeah, that was probably my.
Sure. There you go.
Yeah. Like everyone else, I've been looking. I'm very close to retirement. So my next car is going to be my forever car. I mean, let's face it, I'm no spring chicken.
No.
And it's really, really easy. Love them or hate them. There's no in between. I'm a Jeep guy. I love them and I hate them.
It explains a lot.
It does explain a lot with me, so I don't think there's any surprises at all. Gladiator Rubicon. Top of the wazzer, yeah, they're expensive. You're looking at 90k, but you don't have to do anything to them. Straight out of the showroom, they're seriously capable. Twin locked, all the good gear, and let's be honest, with what we do, and I love doing it, we're more touring than anything else, and it's really, really difficult to go touring in a two-door JK. There's a lot of compromises you need to make. So the Gladiator for me is the way to go. Look, I love them to death. If they were 300 mil shorter than what they are at the minute, it would, to me, would be the ideal car. Yeah, they're a little bit long, but they're not that bad. When you take them for a drive and you drive them stuff, they're not that bad. And an ideal touring vehicle, they really are. They don't have a massive payload, 800 odd kilos, I think 840 kilos. But that's no big deal because I'm not looking at kitting it out with all the bells and whistles and bits and pieces. Off the showroom floor, with how I like to tour, no problem at all. I won't have to change a damn thing. So I'll be able to buy it and drive it. I don't have to go, putting canopies on the back and, putting bash plates on and putting lockers in. It's got all of that stuff as it comes. So that's really simple for me.
You know that length thing that people talk about, the GP?
The ramp over angle is a bit of a problem.
But to be honest, right, there's pluses and minuses to short wheelbase, long wheelbase, because you talk about something really long like that. In a lot of hill climbs and things like that, it'll actually give you an advantage, if you're not ramping over, because the front wheels can deal with an obstacle while the back wheels still have traction.
The whole point is, I've been a short wheelbase guy all my life, and when you're doing seriously tough stuff, short wheelbases absolutely kill long wheelbase, straight up, straight down. Short wheelbase are absolutely no good off camber. They love to fall over, right? So if you've got a longer wheelbase, you're at a much greater advantage with off camber stuff. The Wrangler, I'm like the JK, I'm not going to get rid of that. So if we're doing something that's going to be genuinely tough, and it's, I won't say rock crawling because we're not into that, but if we're going to do some tough tracks, I'll take the JK because that's what they're built for. But as far as touring and that's concerned, I mean, let's face it, this trip here, we haven't even had to use four-wheel drive. But I've had to compromise so much with the gear that I need to have in my vehicle to camp.
Yeah.
And let's face it, JKs aren't the most comfortable car on the road on the planet. Whereas the Gladiators, mate, I took one for a drive, I had it for a full day. Super impressed. I was on the borderline to buying one, but super impressed after I took it for the drive, mate. They are a really, really, really nice vehicle.
They are.
Very, very impressive. The only downside to that is bottom line, you're looking at 90 grand. And that's a whole lot of money. So I'm in that quandary, do I wait until I retire and then buy one? Or do I buy one now and then don't have to buy one at retirement? So it's a little bit of a each way bet. But yeah, to be honest, I think within the next 12 months I'll have something new.
One more question. Do you think Jeep have got the reliability thing sorted?
Mate, that can be a whole other topic and a whole other question. I know we were talking about it earlier on. As far as I'm concerned, they give Jeep a reputation of not being reliable engines. I've got a 08 JK that's sitting over there. It's done over 200,000 kilometres, has never missed a beat, touch wood. Has absolutely never missed a beat. 3.8, they go, oh, they're the most unreliable motor ever built. Rubbish. Where they get their unreliable factor from them is basically Jeep comes from America. A majority of the Americans that use them for off-road bash the hell out of them as far as rock crawling is concerned. They chase power, so they're wicking them up, they're putting turbos on them, they're doing all sorts of crazy shit which makes any motor unreliable, and they're absolutely caning them rock crawling. And every man and his dog over there is running 37s, 40s, 42s. You put that on any vehicle, and you're going to start having reliability problems. And again, as we discussed, probably upset a lot of people. You take Toyota. Everyone said, oh, Toyota's the most reliable car, reliable four-wheel drive on the planet. Take their big three motors out of the equation.
Which you can't buy anymore.
Which you can't buy anymore, by the way, exactly. And if you wanted to buy a 1HD FTE, you're looking at 30k just for the motor, right? You take them away and they are the exact same as every other car. If you maintain a vehicle correctly, it will see you through. If you don't maintain it correctly, end of session. Same as all of the common rail diesels, mate. Common rail diesels now, you're looking at 300,000 and then you're starting to run into some problems. Gone are the days where you go 500,000, 700,000. Mate, the old 18Z, million kilometres, no problems. You can't get them.
Yeah.
Right there, we're talking old school stuff. And there's a massive difference between old school stuff and new vehicles. That's,
Effectively.
be it right or wrong, and people, I know it's very polarising, that's my opinion. And I'm very strong on that as far as an opinion's concerned.
And now you're all looking at me and wondering what I would buy.
Give us your pearls of wisdom, Paul.
I would basically buy a Hilux. It's the vehicle, it's the four-wheel drive that I have always wanted, and I have sort of looked at the D-Max because it's got the factory rear locker, but I would swing more towards the Hilux because it's the vehicle I've always wanted. I would take the tub off and put a canopy on the back. Try and get a sponsor that would build one for me, but then I'd have to get the Hilux first. But yeah,
Ronnie should be just about ready to trade his.
well, the world I think the YouTube world needs another Hilux build. So
Because that went so well.
No, but I was thinking, hit Ronnie up and say, mate, look, now you've done your Hilux, I'll give you 50k.
So yeah, that would be the one for me. Although I have been watching a few other channels on YouTube where they have got the Gladiators, and it does appeal to me. The fact that you can buy it off the showroom floor and basically go four-wheel driving with it. It's already got the tyres, it's already got the suspension, it's already got the lockers, and if you buy the Rubicon, it's got everything, and all you got to do is fit it out for touring. So that would be the only thing that would sway me, but for me it would be a Hilux.
Just whether or not you could stomach another Jeep. We'll put it out there, we've all had issues with Jeeps.
Yes.
We also hammer these vehicles more than what 90% of any Jeep, any cruiser, I dare any cruiser, patrol, Isuzu to do what we do and as regular as we do and not have issues, because it just doesn't happen. So these vehicles are actually quite tough, but we've had issues. But yeah, I like the Rubicon as well, the thing. But as Gary said, 90k plus another 15k for a body on the back, and it's just,
And then you
do
gotta
you
kit
do
it
a
out.
Jeep thing? And you just, it does stick in the back of your mind because public opinion does get you.
Yeah.
You've got to sit there and go, you know what, this is what I want.
Yeah.
Go out and do it. Because I'm sorry, but if anyone's gone out and had a look at a Workmate Land Cruiser 70 Series for 80 grand, vinyl floors, vinyl seats, and they are horrible seats. Anyone, go drive one. They are dead set horrible. I've been driving one at work lately and it's horrible. And the fuel economy makes my Hemi look economical.
You know, if the question is, right, I want to buy, you know, I'm buying a new car, the budget is about $80,000-$90,000, and it must be very good at off-road, like my primary purpose is a capable off-road vehicle, you can't not consider the Gladiator.
Yeah.
You know what
Well,
Just
I
go-
mean, if you're looking at a very capable off-road vehicle, that just takes out 90% of the entire market because everything IFS is gone.
yeah, but you can, you can
Old school. All-wheel drive, solid axle, end of story, the end.
Oh,
That's
yeah.
it.
Says the dinosaur.
Okay. We're on the topic of what vehicle would you buy. Let's back that up and let's take it to before we actually bought the vehicle. Why did you buy the vehicle you bought? Okay, so like it could be anything.
Yep.
But
Why-
we'll start
why-
with you. You've got the Hemi. Why did you buy the Hemi and not something different?
Have you heard it? Serious.
Why not?
Behind it all the time.
Yeah, that's right. Look, it wasn't a compromise as such. I was actually looking at a nice 6-litre Calais. I was getting out of 4-wheel drives, wasn't doing a lot. I worked too much. I still work too much.
It's not what his boss says.
Okay, I show up to work a lot.
And watches YouTube.
No, but the missus wanted to keep a 4-wheel drive for camping. I was looking at a Commodore and getting a little caravan or something like that. We can go to wherever. And I thought, okay, look, compromise. I want a V8 because I've had the diesels. My BT50 was a great car, but at 100,000 k's played up, and that was brand new. It was 60 grand. It cost me. The FJ Cruiser I had was petrol. Painful, gutless. Everyone said they are a reliable vehicle. I never, you put the key in those things, turn the key, it starts, it runs, it does everything it should, but it is gutless and horrible seats and shocking gearbox, and don't get me started.
Too late, we have.
Yeah, I know, pretty much. Pull the ripcord. So sold the circumstances around, basically sold the FJ, started looking around for another car a bit cheaper, and spotted, my old man's had a few Jeeps, so it was sort of in the blood, so I blamed Dad, it's DNA. And basically I thought if I came home with another Land Rover Discovery, because I've had one of those too, a V8, the missus had divorced me, because that cost me 10 grand, 12 grand in 2 years in repairs.
It's nothing.
Love the car, beautiful 4-litre V8, comfortable, most comfortable car, still the most comfortable car I've ever owned. The seats in that thing are brilliant. Anyone knows who's driven a Land Rover knows that they are great, but dead set. Spotted the Jeep, and I thought, well, if I'm going to have a Jeep, it's only going to have one motor in it. It's a Hemi. Spotted the big girl there sitting nice and quietly in a car yard in Bentley with 50,000 k's on it. I knew it had double locking diffs in it, because I knew the Hemis all had the QD2 locking diffs. It had leather seats, it had bugger all K's on it. I figured, well, for the price they wanted for that, it was only 20 grand. It was going to last me at least 10 years, because that Hemi's going to do 500,000 K's, because it's just an under-stressed motor. It's the same motor it's had for 30 years, and it'll just run. And it pretty much has, apart from, it's got a few niggling issues, but what car doesn't? So basically that's where I picked that up. It's got the leather seats. It's comfortable enough to run day to day, and capable enough to point it, I could drive it up the side of that rock there, pretty much. We can try that later.
No.
Got
No, he
100
couldn't.
says you can't. While we're watching, they've got 100 says
Deal, I'm using your car.
This is going to be a whole other show.
Can I get a run up? Dukes of Hazzard style. Yeah, so basically that's what that was. It was low Ks, one owner. So I knew it was going to last. It was solid, and it had the V8 that I wanted in it. Had the off-road cred that I wanted. So I snapped that up. I thought, well, and yeah, it's a love-hate relationship like any Jeep, because every time it coughs or does something nasty or another buzzer comes up on the dash, I think, nah, it's gone, I'm going to get rid of it. But then at the end of the day, I turn the key, that V8 fires up, puts a stupidly big smile on your face, and I'll give a huge shout out to Kraft. That exhaust is magic. It turns heads everywhere it goes. You know, it's not for me. It's for the car. They see it coming, they hear it coming, and you see it. Everyone goes, "Oh, what's that?" You know, they might go, "It's a Jeep. It's only a Jeep," but it sounds awesome and it goes hard. You know, we tow the trailer through most of the trips we're doing these days. Doesn't even bat an eyelid. So basically, that's why I picked that, and she's good to go.
But you?
Mine's pretty short and sharp, so I wanted to build up an off-road tourer, and my two main requirements were, or three, it had to be more reliable than an old car, right? So it had to be something, I wanted something relatively new that was still under warranty. Secondly, I only wanted to spend about 50 grand on the base platform. And the third one, yeah, it had to be the most powerful thing I could basically buy in that bracket. And when I narrowed all that down and boiled up all the choices, the Amarok came out the other end, you know. So, you know, for that money, that was the most powerful, reliable, because it's new, four-wheel drive that I could basically get to start the build.
Cool.
That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Well, mine was, I used to have a VT Commodore LS1, bombed to the eyeballs, cammed up, everything else. Big, loud exhaust, probably louder than that. And I pretty much got sick and tired of every time I drove down the road and a cop car went past of going, is he going to turn around and come back and stick at me? So I got to the point where I got fed up with that, so I decided I was going to grow up.
When? Anytime now, folks.
I'm going to grow up, and I thought I'm going to buy a four-wheel drive. So the wife and I went looking through a few car yards, and I was actually looking, believe it or not, at a Hilux. I looked at a few Hiluxes that took my eye in a few different car yards through Wangara, and there was one in particular. It was a blue one, metallic blue. It already had the canopy on the back and it had a bull bar and everything else. I thought, yep, this looks pretty good. And the rest of it I blame completely on the wife, and she'll kill me for telling this, but I blame Clarissa.
It was nice knowing you.
She saw the Jeep. Now, we had some friends that had a 2012 model Jeep, and we'd driven it a few times and loved it. It was so comfortable to drive. It was just a fantastic car to drive around in. It had all the mod cons luxuries inside. It was a beautiful car to drive. And she said, what about this? And I looked at it and I went, we can't afford that. She goes, it's in your price range. And I said, I don't even know what my price range is. I'm just looking. And we went back when the car yard was open, and we actually took the Jeep for a test drive. And I loved it. It was comfortable. It's a beautiful car to drive. It's got the heated seats. It's got, you know, the different air conditioning for both sides of the vehicles, and the heat, so you can sync to different temperatures, and everything's electronic inside. I'm not a great fan of fully electronic vehicles because it's just so many things that can go wrong with them. As we know now that we own Jeeps, that every time you drive down the road and you hear a bing, it's like, what's that? And it might not be anything. I think the car just every now and then goes bing, just to get you on your toes.
Just to check that buzzer still works.
Just to make sure that you're alert, because you start searching for a light on the dashboard and it's not there. I call that vehicle, it's a teenager going through puberty with an attitude problem. That's what it's like. That's the brain that it has, and it just likes to throw things at
Eventually
you.
Eventually gets you there, but drives you nuts doing it.
But yeah, and I mean, we bought the Jeep, obviously, and it was a second thought that it could quite well go off-road just as good as any other vehicle. So I started taking it off-road and bashing it, and things started falling off of it, and I started modifying it, and here it is today. Over there, covered in mud.
Hasn't hit low range or high range in 2 days.
Costing me about $2,000 a month to keep on the road.
yeah, pretty much. But I generally find that most people that bag Jeeps have never owned one.
No. Oh, hello. We've just had a bird flown into camp.
We're in a spot.
They can't see it. It's on the other side of the camera.
That's right. You wouldn't have seen
That's
that.
our film crew.
Yeah, that's why he's quit and taken off. Yeah, I find that a lot. You know, people go, oh, Jeeps are no good, Jeeps are this. Have you ever owned one? Nah, you know. Yeah, don't necessarily take them out of your... If you find one, I mean, it's important. They're a bit quirky. They are, I mean, I call them the American Land Rover. They go brilliantly off-road. When they work, a cruiser and a patrol will not touch them. Dead set. When they are working properly, you will not touch them. But you can't drive them 200,000 k's without servicing. You know, you need to service them. You know, I need to change the oil in my diffs every 20,000 kilometres, otherwise the clutch packs chew out. There are things with them that you need to do on time and do properly. You know, you can't get your backyard mechanic to service it because there's certain things that need to be done. So you find a good mechanic, and it's not necessarily a Jeep mechanic as far as the dealerships go, because some of those aren't so crash up.
No.
You find a good mechanic you trust, you use top quality oils, you use top quality parts, you get them done on time when they need to be done, and they are a brilliant vehicle. For what you pay to get the same equipment that we've got in these, you're paying double for a Toyota, a Nissan, Isuzu, whatever. It doesn't matter what the badge is, you'll pay double for what we've got in these vehicles now. And to be honest, with half the ability. And it's as simple as that.
Yeah, but you know, the other thing is, I say for like those more mainstream four-wheel drives, it really depends on the application. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot to be said for wheel size and ground clearance, you know?
No, I'm the actual other way. And I'll explain the reason why I bought the JK. I've owned four-wheel drives all my life, right? So, which is a bloody long while. I was in the market for a new vehicle because I'd had the 3.2 short wheelbase patch. Fantastic touring vehicle, and like you said about the landing, the Padge was probably the most comfortable vehicle I've ever driven. It was fantastic on the road. Had its limitations off-road, without a doubt. Independent front suspension, four-wheel independent suspension, actually. Had its limitations, but it was a really genuinely nice vehicle. The reputation of the 3.2 Pajero is super strong, super reliable engine. For 2.5 years I was fighting error codes, limp modes. There was just, mate, we chased it really, really, really hard. Having said that, that vehicle always got me home. Sometimes not really quickly, as Paul will attest on one of our trips. Long drive at 80 kilometres an hour.
Yes, yeah.
But it always got me home. Enough was enough, I needed to buy a new vehicle. I've always loved the JCOs. Like, to me, there's three vehicles. There's the GQ Patrol, the 80 series Toyota, and the JK Jeep. Are your three, in my opinion, iconic four-wheel drive vehicles. They all have things in common. Solid axles, right? Off the showroom floor, relatively capable. If you throw a Rubicon into the mix, the other two aren't going to get anywhere near it. Again, apologise there for the Toyota and the Nissan fans, but let's face it, name me a Toyota and a Nissan that comes twin-locked, automatic release sway bars, like Dana 44 diffs or Dana 60s in the big ones. Like, they just don't have the running gear that the Jeeps have, right? It's as simple as that. Anyway, I bought my Jeep for a couple of reasons. Firstly, it was super cheap. I knew, I got in contact with the guy that owned it prior to him trading it in. It had done off-road work, but it was always well maintained. And the reason that he sold it is because he was retiring and wanted to travel, and obviously you can't tow anything with a short wheelbase JK. So he traded it, which is why I bought it. I very rarely buy from a car yard, but I bought that from a car yard because I knew its history. I picked that thing up, $12,490 I think it was. I ended up getting it for, right? Which is an absolute steal, because you try and buy it these days with COVID prices and you're looking at bloody 25 to 30.
Yep.
Yes, it wasn't a Rubicon, but I've made it that way. Right? It's got all of the Rubicon gear with the exception of a Dana 44 dip in the front. So be it. I bought that because it ticked all of my boxes as far as off-road is concerned. I'm the first one to put my hand up, and I don't disguise the fact that is a horrible car to drive on the road. It's terrible. It rattles, it leaks, It's not comfortable. It's an uncomfortable driving position. There's a whole lot of things that you could cross off those lists to say that's not the right car to drive on the road. And I drive it as a daily, 130 kilometres a day. But I'm prepared to put up with the sacrifices of it being not so necessarily fantastic on road because of what it does off road. And that's why I bought it. Right? If I wanted to buy just a beautifully comfortable on-road vehicle, I'd have bought something totally different, but I didn't. I wanted to buy that for exactly what it's good at, and it is good at what it's good at.
And see, I can relate to that. The reason I had a budget on my car is because I knew I wanted to be driving it down tracks and getting it scratched up, and I didn't want to have to baby it, you know what I mean? And so that's why I thought, well, I don't want to do that with a $100,000 car, you know? Nobody does.
That's part of the reason why I'm not going to sell that if I do buy the Gladiator, because again, in round figures, you're talking almost 100 grand. Not that I'll baby it. If I drive it down these tracks and it gets a couple of scratch marks down the side of it, no big deal. But I'm not real keen on bouncing up this rock face here in a $100,000 vehicle.
But just follow Brad up. He's shooting up there shortly.
Yeah, I'll show you where to go, mate. No worries at all, mate.
I'll tell you what, I'll follow you.
Yeah, you follow me. Yeah, no, if you can keep up.
Oh, sorry. Did I do that out loud?
Yeah. Actually, can you bring me some fuel when I get to the top?
All right. Well, on that note, we better wrap up this episode because otherwise it's going to get too long. So
And it's getting dark.
It's starting to get dark. So I do apologise if the camera has been going in and out of darkness. It's searching for light because there's not a lot of light around at the moment.
But at least it's not raining.
It's not raining. It's not
Searching
raining.
for signs of
And the
intelligence,
fire's
we're about
still
to turn
going and the snacks are all gone. So if you've made it this far, thank you for watching. Hope you've enjoyed this.
We apologise.
We do apologise, but hope you've enjoyed this episode of Snack Chat. Don't forget, if you haven't already subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Thank you for supporting the channel for those that have already subscribed to the channel. And we'll see you in our next episode. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, guys.